Have you been thinking of getting a camper lately, but you can't decide between a pop-up camper and a traditional travel trailer? Well, I have a comparison list for you, so stay tuned. So when we were thinking about getting a pop-up trailer, we were really comparing whether we wanted a pop-up or a traditional hard-sided travel trailer. And I wanted to share my experiences with you about our thought process and what really went into us deciding ultimately on getting this pop-up camper, which is a Rockwood Freedom 1640 FT. So this is one of Rockwood's smaller pop-up tents, and it is everything we ever dreamed of. It is everything we needed, everything we wanted. But let's go ahead and get into what I'm going to talk about today. Now, this isn't really a pros and cons list of either one, but I did narrow this down into 3 different categories, and that is towing, overall camping experience, and price. So I'm going to compare both, whether it's a pop-up camper or a traditional travel trailer, into those 3 categories. So let's go ahead and get into it. So let's start with a pop-up here and talk about towing. So overall, towing a pop-up camper is extremely easy. Most pop-ups are very lightweight and more lightweight than a traditional travel trailer. But the thing that I like the most is the low profile of a pop-up. So we tow this with our Subaru Outback, and we can still see directly over the top of this from our rearview mirror, and that makes towing extremely easy. Now, you still know that you have something back there, you can still feel it, but having the low profile makes it extremely easy. With a traditional travel trailer, obviously it's not going to be as low profile, although there are some very small hard-sided travel trailers out there to choose from, but it takes away from that low profile visibility from in your tow vehicle. And having a pop-up, you can tow this with a wide variety of vehicles. You can tow it obviously with a full-size truck, you can tow it with a mid-size truck very easily, and a lot of SUVs and some cars can even tow this. So you have to be careful though, because there are different sizes of pop-ups. I mentioned earlier that this is one of Rockwood's smaller pop-ups. This particular pop-up weighs 1,700 pounds, so we're in our towing capacity there with our Outback. But you still want to be very careful. You want to weigh your options. You want to look at your towing capacity and your payload and make sure you're not exceeding that. But our camper has an 8-foot box right here. So when I talk about the box, I'm talking about just the shell itself. That's 8 feet. Now it's about 10 feet from the trailer hitch all the way to the spare tire that's on the back. So it's 10 feet long. And when it's fully open and popped out, it is 17 feet. So pop-ups are extremely spacious, and I would compare this to one of Rockwood's Geo Pro models. And we have some friends with the Geo Pro, and I think our interior has just as much space as their Geo Pro does. So they're surprisingly spacious when they're popped up and out, although we do not have a bathroom or a kitchen inside, and Geo Pros do. So we don't have capabilities to cook inside or use the bathroom, although we do cook outside, and we hook up our griddle to that track system there. So it's up to you to decide how much you can tow safely. There are a lot of pop-ups that have even more slides other than the front and the back. There are some that have side slides that pop out that have more sleeping capacity, and they can get as big as a traditional travel trailer can. Although your hard-sided travel trailers typically are a little heavier and a little harder to tow comparing to the same type of vehicles that you can tow a pop-up with. But just drive slowly when you're towing, 60 to 65 miles per hour. Don't exceed 65, and you should be safe. Now, pop-ups are usually easier to maneuver around gas stations. So since they are smaller, the box size itself is smaller, you can see a little better. They're easier to maneuver. Of course, you still have to be careful if it's a sharp turn and you're really squeezing it in there. But most truck stops like Love's, Flying J, plenty of room for a pop-up camper to be pulled in there and fill up your tow vehicle with gas. Although we still try to fill up with gas before we hitch up. That way we can just start our vacation and just hit the road and not even have to worry about it. So if your tow vehicle does not have a brake controller, make sure you get one installed. We use this one from Curt. It's an Echo wireless brake controller, and this just hooks up directly to our 7-pin connector on the back of our Outback. Now let me go back. So we had a 7-pin connector installed at the dealership that we bought this pop-up camper from. It was a Forest River Camping World dealership, and they did a fantastic job of installing a 7-way pin connector on our hitch, and they installed all the wiring. Now we went to U-Haul and they put the actual trailer hitch on the back of our Outback. So we got the hitch installed at U-Haul, and then we actually had the 7-way connector installed at the RV dealership. So the trailer brake controller just goes directly into your 7-way connector, and then your trailer cord goes into this side of the trailer brake controller. So it just goes in just like that. And then this side goes into your tow vehicle. So you connect wirelessly with this. We have an app on our phone that connects directly to this brake controller, and then we just have one of our phones live, and there's actually a little circle there that you can manually press, and it will apply extra brakes to this brake controller. But we have it dialed in to where as soon as you tap the brakes on the tow vehicle, it activates the brakes on the pop-up. But either way, it's always safe to make sure you have a brake controller installed. Most trucks, really most full-size trucks have it, most mid-size trucks have it, but it's always a good idea to have one installed if you do not have that. So that's pretty much it from a towing perspective. So let's get into the overall camping experience and compare pop-up campers with traditional travel trailers. So it's my opinion that you get an overall camping experience with a pop-up. And that's mainly because of the windows and the canvas, right? So the top of your pop-up raises up and it's all canvas around you. Well, there are windows, there are zippers all around this thing, front, back, side to side. There are windows all around. So even when you're inside, you can have your windows zipped up, but there is really more of an interior dark out, blackout sort of zipper, and you can leave that undone and just see out. You can look out at everything, but you can also just unzip the outer part of your window where it's just more of the bug netting, the mosquito netting, and you can hear nature around you. You can hear the birds singing. If you're parked next to a river, you can hear the flow of the river. If you're parked on the Gulf Coast, you can hear the waves crashing. So overall, it's a better camping experience, I think, comparing it to a traditional travel trailer. Now, I look at that as a positive, but it can also be a negative. So if you're at a very busy campground and some of your neighboring campers may be a little loud and maybe they're staying up later than you like to stay up, you're gonna hear them. So that's really one of the cons of a pop-up trailer, is that you will be able to hear your noisy neighbors if you have some. So you typically have more privacy in your hard-sided travel trailer, although you don't have as many windows, and it's, in my opinion, it's not really as good of an overall camping experience. You get the upper hand there where you're not gonna get annoyed as much by having noisy neighbors. Also, if you're camping really close to someone, they're gonna be able to see directly into your pop-up camper. So the windows are just plastic, right? So they're not really as tinted as you want them to be. Although that interior zipper, it does have some tint to it, you can still see directly inside of it, especially at nighttime and when you have some lights on. So be aware of that too. So you're gonna have more privacy in a traditional travel trailer. So let's talk about setup. It obviously takes longer to set up a pop-up camper, but a lot of the things are the same, whether it's a pop-up or a travel trailer. So you have 30 amp power, you have water connections, all of that is the same, whether it's the pop-up or the travel trailer. So that part of setup is gonna take exactly the same amount as it would with a travel trailer. But the setup of the pop-up itself is going to take longer. So it just takes a while to get the canvas set up, to get your bunk ends pushed out and set up, put your support bars in for your beds and the roof itself. So it just takes a little while longer. Our entire setup process takes about an hour, but I'm including the electric and water camp chairs, hammocks, rugs, you know, all of the above. It takes about an hour to really get everything set up. And the more we do it, the faster we get at it. But we like to give ourselves at least an hour to set up our pop-up. Now, I mentioned this earlier, but the interior of our pop-up is surprisingly spacious. So it's me and my wife, and we have a teenage daughter. And when we're all three in there, we're usually just laying on the beds, but we do have a little couch area that we can sit on. And we really don't get in each other's way, but we don't spend a lot of time during the day in our pop-up. We're out enjoying the water, the lake, rivers, hiking, just things like that. So we're out of the camper most of the time during the day. So we're really only in this thing to grab something out of the fridge or to just go to sleep. Now, if you're shopping for a pop-up or a travel trailer, there's so many options. So you really want to narrow it down to a brand and then 2 or 3 models. So it's really quite overwhelming when you're looking and when you're shopping at buying a pop-up or a travel trailer. So get it narrowed down and then look at the sizes. Even with Rockwood here with their tent trailers, their pop-ups, there are quite a few options and sizes to choose from. Now, we were a little limited with our tow vehicle, so that's one reason we chose one of the smaller. Now, there are smaller models than this one, but this fit what we were looking for perfectly. Now, most pop-ups do not have a kitchen or a bathroom, or if it does have a bathroom, it's more of a cassette toilet that's just sort of pushed to the side with not a lot of privacy. So now I'm not saying there aren't any pop-ups with bathrooms with a closed door, but I don't see too many of them. So the travel trailer has the upper hand there when it comes to privacy and using a bathroom, have a dedicated space for a bathroom and a kitchen. So if you're looking for a little more of those creature comforts like cooking in your camper, using the bathroom in your camper, you're gonna need to go with a travel trailer. But we camp in campgrounds and we use the facilities at the campgrounds. So we always look at photos and read reviews, and we make sure that whatever campgrounds we're reserving, that they do have nice bathrooms and showers and toilets and to keep those clean. So we take advantage of our state parks, and those typically have, here in Alabama, nice bathrooms. So let's talk about beds and compare pop-ups to travel trailers. Now, overall in campers, the beds are not that comfortable. So usually the first thing that people replace is the mattress when they buy a pop-up or a travel trailer. Now, with a pop-up, you can't really replace the mattress and put a super thick mattress in there because then the roof is not gonna lower. So you don't really wanna replace your mattress with anything that's too thick. Now, we do camp with a 2-inch memory foam that we lay on top of our pop-up mattress, but we don't leave that in the camper when we lower it. We roll it up and we store it somewhere else. But you do really want to take a look at the bedding type situation, and if you're looking for a little more comfort, you may want to lean more towards the travel trailers. They typically have the upper hand when it comes to comfort and mattresses. Now, I mentioned cooking earlier, and we like to cook outside, mainly because we don't have any way to cook inside of the pop-up, but there are some pop-ups that do come with kitchens and stoves inside. But even if we had one, we would still choose to cook outside. So travel trailers get the upper hand. Most travel trailers are gonna come with a cooktop and even some with ovens. So if you're really looking to cook inside of your camper, go ahead and go with the travel trailer. So let's talk about pricing. Travel trailers are typically a little more expensive than pop-ups. So let's talk about pop-ups first. You can get a used pop-up camper for really cheap, sometimes around $2,000 or $4,000. And if you go really cheap, around the $1,000 range, then you're gonna have to do some upgrades and you're gonna really have to do some work. And they may even have holes in the top of the pop-up. You know, you really wanna inspect it really well. The canvas may have holes in it. Some of the electrical system may not work well. So really take a look at the pop-up camper that you're shopping for if it's used and get an inspection, make sure everything is working properly. And if not, you may just have to do a little work on it to get it working properly. But if we're talking about a brand new pop-up, which we bought this one, it's a 2026 model. It is exactly what we wanted. So we decided to go ahead and buy brand new. We just didn't want to get involved in the renovating of a used pop-up camper. Although I love watching YouTube videos of people doing that, and I appreciate that side of pop-up camping. We decided to go ahead and buy brand new. Now, brand new pop-up campers can go anywhere between $10,000 and $30,000. So it's a wide range, right? So really look into what type of camper that you want and need, and narrow it down from the price there. Now, travel trailers, you can get a travel trailer for about the same price. Now, they're typically a little more expensive, but I've seen travel trailers advertised for $10,000 to $12,000 for a smaller one. So pricing, it's pretty comparable. Although travel trailers are a little more expensive, it's pretty comparable. So whether you're looking at used or new, just narrow it down to a few different models. It really comes down to just what you can afford and what you want to buy and how much money you want to spend. But we couldn't be any happier with our pop-up here. I love the Rockwood brand. We were leaning towards a pop-up or the Geo Pro brand by Rockwood. I love the Geo Pros. And I love the mini lights as well, but the mini lights were a little too big for us, and we are not quite ready to upgrade our tow vehicle yet. So that's why we decided to go with the pop-up. I hope you found value in this video. Please consider subscribing to my channel and help me grow this into a community. Thank you for watching.